Welcome back to the channel, guys. You're here with Juzzie, and here's another video install for the TweakedGSX. Now in today's video, I'm going to talk quickly at the beginning about what the holdup was with publishing this video. Basically, I had a few things go wrong. I ordered the adjustable kickstand from T-Rex Racing on their eBay site. It took about 3 to 4 weeks to arrive, and then when it finally arrived on the day, I get an email from WeBike Japan about these Metal Gear rods that I'd purchased for them. Now these parts originally arrived 3 days after I ordered them. As I've always said, great service from that company. I left them in the package because I wasn't going to go ahead and install this until I had all the parts ready. As you know in my videos, I've actually already lowered my bike using a Daytona branded lowering rod with the collars that I purchased from WeBike, and I lowered my front forks just by untightening the factory bolts. But unfortunately, at my height, it was still just a little bit too high using a 20mm lowering rod. So I purchased this 35mm one from WeBike Japan. Here it is here on their website. Cost me about $75, and it's made specifically for this bike. I've never purchased one of these Metal Gear branded products before, but on the day that this part arrived, I got an email from out of nowhere from WeBike Japan saying, hey, if you have this part, please don't install it. They've sent you the wrong sized collars. So I actually opened up the box, I had a look at it, and I found that yes, these collars, compared to the factory collar, as you can see here, it's only just over half the thickness of the factory collar. So what that meant is that if I'd installed it, the rods basically would have been sitting a little bit in like this instead of being straight. So that would have caused some stress tension on the rod and would have had problems with alignment, I imagine. It just wouldn't have been safe. So they did the right thing. They said Metal Gear have identified that they'd sent me the wrong one. I don't know if it was a mix-up of an order or what had happened, but they made good on it. They did the right thing. They contacted WeBike Japan because I guess that WeBike Japan doesn't know where this product is going to. But WeBike said don't install it, so I left it. So I basically then had to wait with this part here, but not the correct collars. And then in the post, what's happened is that they've sent me the correct sized collars. So as you can see, these collars are the same thickness as the factory one. I think that was somewhere around 1 centimeter long or so, and I'm now finally good to go. So just in case you're wondering, I've got a 20mm lowering rod in my bike from Daytona, Japan. I'm still using the factory kickstand that comes with the Suzuki, and only if you're on a flat surface is it actually suitable to use. If you're actually parked on a very slight incline, then what happens is the bike is literally just standing with the kickstand totally straight, and it's a huge risk to toppling over from someone, you know, hopping off their bike or whatever, and then yeah, big gust of wind comes. So whilst it says on the website that for a 20mm lowering rod you can get away with using the standard kickstand, I wouldn't recommend it. So because of that, and with a combination of bad weather here where I live in Brisbane, Australia, I just haven't been using my bike as a commuter. So the bike still has really low Ks, fresh, you've seen it in all the videos, but I've literally only ridden it probably, I don't know, 5 or 6 times. So in the whole time that I've had it for, I don't know, how long has it been now? Maybe 1 or 2 months. So we now actually have a situation where I've got the right kickstand, I can install it, I've got the right lowering rod and the correct collars, so we're good to go. Now I had actually I'd actually filmed unboxing of this part, the Daytona lowering rod, my lowering process for the front forks, etc, etc. And I probably made about 3 or 4 videos, and I decided to scrap them all and just put it all into the one video. So I can tell you that this part arrived nicely packaged, it's nicely put together. I've confirmed that it will fit, This is for the GSX-S750 and a couple of other bikes. I'll have the link to where I got all these parts in the video description down beneath the video, as I always do. Now, the last thing I want to talk about, and this is something that made me a little bit nervous from uploading onto the channel, but I actually just went about doing this install the way that I thought was best. I had a look at a number of videos online, and it looked like the proper way to install this lowering rod is to actually use a hinged mount, so an overhead mount, putting a rope or something like that through the frame and holding the bike up, so that when you do go ahead and remove the bolts for this lowering rod, the bike can be supported. What you'll find is that if you use a traditional car jack that's in the boot of your car and you jack up the bottom of the bike, if you go to remove the bolt, what you'll find then is that the swing arm is unsupported, and so what happens is the top of the bike, so where your seat is and all that, wants to fall down, and then you've got your swing arm that wants to fall up, and the whole thing's a mess. So what I did originally was I got out some cushions, some sheets, and some bean bags at home. I laid the bike on its side so there was no risk of any of the whole bike collapsing in on itself like a scissor, and I was able to get the lowering rod installed. I thought about what people would think about me doing it that way, but it worked for me. I did the install by myself. I was able to get the bolts torqued to the factory spec, and there was no issue whatsoever. So the bike's been riding perfectly fine since. Gone on a couple of social rides with my friends. Everything's been great. I am going to actually do that again for this install video. So whilst that may not be to everyone's like, it might be as a dislike to some people, I just want to let you know that if you've got any doubts about installing this part and you don't have the right torque wrench to install it, etc., you should seek a professional to do it. But this is how you do it. If you're at home, you had the right tools, but you didn't have that winch overhead to actually lift your bike. Let's get to the garage and let's get to work. Alright guys, so here we are in the garage, and I'm just going to talk about what I did to lower the front of the bike first. Now you'll see in my history of videos where I actually removed the headlight and did a whole bunch of work to the headlight. To take the headlight off and to put it back on just takes roughly about 5 or 10 minutes. It's nothing major. So if you're wanting to do this lowering of your bike, stop the video, go and find my headlight video and follow that procedure to remove the headlight. Now once you remove the headlight, you then open up the whole front of the bike so you can see the front suspension and work on it very clearly. The reason why you want to take the headlight off is because this part here just gets a little bit in the way of this bolt, and I just feel that in my case I liked using a ratchet strap around the top of the tree, going down to underneath here. So when I say top of a tree, I actually mean top of the fork, the fork cylinder right here. What happens is when you undo this 1, 2, and 3rd bolt, you need to actually leave a little bit of grab, so it's a tiny little bit tight. And what that does is that when you go to slide the fork up through this top tree, you need a little bit of grab so that it doesn't just completely go flying up. Now, it didn't on either one for me, but I did do one fork at a time. Just so you know, this fork has 2.5 centimeters of adjustment from factory, and I've currently got it at 2 centimeters. Now, the reason why my fork looks gold down here and black is because I simply just used some rubberized plasti dip to black it out because I didn't want it to look gold on top. So when I actually had the handlebar risers installed on this bike, I had heaps of room. I had like this much room, and I could drop it down the full 2.5 centimeters. And I think without the risers, you could probably go to about maybe 2.3, maybe something like that. So very close to 2.5, I guess. But I've got it set at 2 centimeters. Suzuki gives you the ability to adjust the spring by means of turning this top valve. So you'll see here that at its very strongest compressed setting, 4 millimeters raised from the top of the fork tube, and then at its very softest setting, when you've got it all the way wound out, it's actually at 14 millimeters. So what I've done is I've wound it almost all the way out where it's at 12.5 millimeters. And by doing that, I've sort of counteracted the tightening up of the suspension by dropping it 2 centimeters. So I made it softer on the front so that it's got so that the ride is not so brutal. Now, on my bike, if you have a look down here, I've actually got a Daytona lowering rod installed. So this part came from We Bike Japan. It enables the bike to be lowered 2 centimeters in the rear. This part helped a lot with me being able to walk the bike whilst I'm seated on the bike, but I'm still not at a perfect height, so I need to drop it a little bit more. So basically, when you lower the rear of your bike, you actually have some adjustment. So from factory, it's set at 3 of 5 positions, with 1 being the softest and 5 being the hardest. So because I lowered the back of the bike, I actually just tried changing that from 3 to 2, and I was actually quite happy with the way that it handled. I forgot to mention that when you go to tighten these 1, 2 and 3 bolts up, the factory spec is 17 newton meters. It's 23 newton meters, which is 17 foot-pounds of torque. Okay guys, so as I was talking about before, I've actually set up a couple of large bean bags on the right side of the bike. Now the reason why I am doing this is because if you do go ahead and you try and put a jack underneath the bike and you use this point here to raise it up, what happens is when you undo the lowering rod, the swing arm wants to come up and then the bike wants to collapse when you don't have the rod tightened at all. Okay, so what normally happens at a shop is that they take off, I believe it's this side mount, and then somewhere through the frame here there is like a hollow tube that you can put a belt through, and then or chain, and then you can sort of hinge it up to a top mount. And what that does is it stops the top of the bike from falling down, and yeah, the swing arm from falling up. So that is the ideal way to go about changing the lowering rod on the bike. So what you can do, and I think you should still consider doing it this way, even if you've got 2 people, maybe even if you've still got 3 people, because this bike is 200 kilograms and you need to have some strength to carry it, and I certainly don't have that to do it myself. So I'm doing it a way that I know will work. I've done it before when I put the Daytona lowering rod on. Now this won't work for all sorts of bikes, because some bikes have like a tilt sensor, whatnot, so that if it was to simulate that you crashed a bike, you leaned it over, it'd do something to make sure that the bike shuts off, I don't know, to stop flooding or whatever. But I'm doing it a way that I know works. So what I've done is I've just got a mat where the muffler would go, just in case the beanbag slides out. I've got 2 bags here side by side next to the bike. I've got it tucked in so that it's under the foot peg assembly, under the exhaust, and that the exhaust is covered. Now I could take the exhaust off, but I do not need to, that's fine. Again, the same thing for the front. Just want to make sure that the majority of the weight for the bike is going to be underneath where these are. Alrighty. And I recommend that the entire time that you lay the bike down, that you have the foot stand down. Later on, when you go to pick up the bike, you need to have the foot stand down so that when you go to lift the bike, you don't topple over and then the bike falls over this way. So I've seen that happen in videos a lot. All right, so I'm going to put the camera in a stand, and I'm simply just going to lay the bike over on its side now. I'm just going to do it nice and slowly, and yeah, in a way that's not going to cause any damage at all. Okay, so nice and easy, as you can see. No damage to the bike. I'll just take this off the stand now, just walk you around to have a look at it. No damage, nothing is hitting the ground at all, and the exhaust is perfectly fine, so everything's fine, okay? So what this does is it enables you now to look at swapping over this lowering rod, okay, and also taking off the bolts and springs for this kickstand so that you don't run into any issues with it collapsing on you, falling over, seriously hurting yourself, or just damaging the bike. Certainly feels easier. Oh yeah, it definitely feels easier when you've got it the spring in this up position, with the stand in the up position. Okay, so I've just got one undone. Alright, so I've just got both springs there. So it's definitely easier to do this when the kickstand is up. Now, as you can see, you've got one nut here, and then you've got the bolt head on this bottom side. Alright, so that's what we're going to try and get off next. Alright, so I've just got the 17mm nut off, very simple. So now I can get the bolt out. Slightly awkward because there's a lip on the factory kickstand that makes the spanner just be slightly in the way. Now I've got grease all over the place. It's a brand new bike, so if you've got an aged bike, just remember to get some lithium grease, because you have to grease it up. So you can see there's all the grease on my hands. There's a collared bolt which you're going to reuse. I'm just going to slide that out. Okay, so here is the standard kickstand next to the T-Rex racing one, and you can see how I've brought it up a few centimeters, and if it's not right, all I need to do is undo the nut and bolt, slide the shaft in or out, and I think there's like 5 or 6 positions on here. Alright, so I've just got some Penrite moly grease. Okay, so it's just a general purpose lithium grease that I use on all my mechanical stuff that I want to lubricate. So just looks like this, a little bit gooey, but I want to make sure that that's going to be lubricated, and the inner side, because this is a moving part and it's going to move for the life of the bike, or at least whilst I've got it. And if I hand it over to someone taller than me, then it's easy for me just to pop that back on the factory stand for the new owner. It goes straight back on like that. Kickstart the foot part of the stand goes to the outer side, and then this bolt again just comes right on through. So like I was saying, you don't need to remove these two bolts for this push switch, so that the bike knows whether or not the stand is up. You don't need to do that. Okay, it's just been really careful, not rushing it. Okay, so I've got that as far as I can go, hand tight. So that's good. I can hear the grease as I move it around. So there's the stopper, so that when I put the kickstand up, it pushes that switch in so that the bike will know the kickstand's up. It won't stop me from riding it. Get this bolt tightened to 40 Newton meters. So I'm just going to use the ratchet spanner to tighten it reasonably tight by hand first. Then I'm going to get my torque wrench. It is set to 40 Newton meters. Alright, so now that I've tightened that to 40 Newton meters, now I can put some Loctite. Alright guys, so I've just put some Loctite on. The nut has a very tiny kind of internal spring washer on top. I'm just going to use a 14mm socket with the torque wrench set to 50 this time. So I'm just winding it up. Okay, so now it's at 50. Just taking it nice and slow. Alright, so that's definitely at the factory specification now. The last thing is that we need to put the spring on. Now, just remembering there's a larger spring body, and then there's a smaller spring which fits on the inside. It's easier to put one spring on at a time. So you just got to fidget around with it, and you want to put the swing arm up, and we want to get it to be there. Now the hooks hook to the back of the bike, so both hook to the back. So what I'm doing is I'm actually hooking both springs on first at the top side of the bike, and then for the swing arm I'll do one at a time there. Okay, so both are on, and then I'm again out with my spring tool. It's a fidgety job because you've got the kickstand wanting to fall down, you've got the spring. Okay, so there's one spring, and then we've just got that last spring. There you go. Alright, so I'll just bring you in for a closer look. So there is the two springs around there, and the two springs on the top side as well. When you go to put the adjustable kickstand up. It's got tension, as you can see. The spring tension slides it up, so that's great. It's not bound in any way, it's one inside the other. It's perfectly good. We've got the nut and bolt at 40 and 50 Newton meters, so that's great. And as you can see, the push button the switch for the kickstand is going in, so the bike will know that the kickstand's up. Great. So now we can move on to part 2, which is the lowering rod. Alright, so there's the first bolt off, just using an old screwdriver that I don't care about and a mallet, and all I'm doing is just pushing that bolt through. It's not threaded on, alrighty. So I'm just feeding that through, just like that, and out comes the bolt, alrighty. Now the next thing is, you can see here that these rods can come down, but you can't get it out because you've got to get this one undone as well. Now you do actually, I forgot, you do actually have to undo this bolt here to move the fairing down so that you can actually impact wrench this one off. So let's just get that done first. Okay, so I've got my 5mm Allen key. Just breaking that one off. And another one back here. Just in front of a swing arm. And then lastly, just got this little push pin clip at the rear. Once you've got those off, you'll be able to hang the fairing down. Alright, so I've just got those all off now. So you can see here is the Daytona rod and collar. And again, so here it is on the other side, collar on the inside, rod on the outer side. You can see I've got Daytona rod and collar, factory rod and collar, and then Metal Gear rod and the collars. Factory, the lower you go, the longer it is, the lower you go. Okay, 20mm lowered, 35mm lowered. All right. Thick collars, just like factory. The Daytona rod was just as thick as the factory rod. The Metal Gear one is slightly thinner, but it's still solid steel. Okay, so as I was saying, the collar goes to the bottom part, alrighty, and the collar goes in like this on the bottom side, and they face inwards towards the middle of the bike. Okay. What I like about this Metal Gear one is that it's grey like factory, and you can put the Metal Gear logo to the inner side, which is what I want to do, so that it just looks all factory. Alright, now inside there is actually a massive bearing inside. If I show you here, take the camera off and I'll show you guys. So there is a massive roller bearing in there, and that enables the bike swing arm to move up and down and gives the bike travel at the rear, working in conjunction with your rear shock. Alright guys, so that was the bearing that's inside this triangular piece, and there is a cylinder inside which protects the large bearing, and it's like a sleeve. All right, Loctite, put it inside this nut. All right, because I do not want that coming undone. So this time we're going to be right. Bolt through the sleeve on this side with the logo correct way. So many moving parts, so just take your time, don't stuff any of the threads. Okay, so it just needs to be loose for now. So first thing I'm going to do with the top one is just feed the Loctite through again. Okay, so that's good. It was already through that bottom one there. So I'm just going to get the bolt. Now these ones don't have a collar on the top side, and the thing I need to show you is that because this rod is a different length, when you go to fit that up, you'll see here that it doesn't fit anymore because the bike is actually going to be sitting lower. Alright, so what I'm doing here is I'm just pushing up on the swing arm, which will temporarily enable me to line up this bolt through the bottom of the bike. So I've just got to feed that up here. Incredibly awkward to do this, but not impossible. Okay, so there you go. I've raised it up now. Actually, I'll feed it just a little bit back for a second, because I won't be able to get that through. Alright. There you go. So it's through now. So now I've got the nut which has the Loctite on it. Hand spin that down. Alright, so good amount of Loctite on that bolt. It's actually starting to work its way through. Alright, so again, we are now going to get the 14mm on the back, the 17mm on the front. Now I'm not ramming it down because I want to torque it to spec. I'm just simply getting this bolt in. Alright, so that's in. Same thing for the bottom. Good. And I actually use my torque wrench. Alright, 78 Newton meters. Alright guys, so the job is completed now, and I'm in the moment going to lift the bike up and just have a look at the difference that it's made. Now please, 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 if you're going to be doing this this mod to your bike, please triple check everything, because this is a key part for the suspension. You want to make sure that you've got the right torque settings, as I mentioned in the video, and you want to make sure that you use Loctite as well for peace of mind. So again, I'm just going to triple check everything. I've got the bolt in for my adjustable stand, it's not going to come out. I've got the 2 springs on this side, 2 springs on that side. I've got the nut and the bolt at 40 and 50 Newton meters. I can see that the kickstand comes up and it won't want to fall down, so that's great. Then I can make sure that my 1, 2 bolts and a plastic retainer are back here for the fairing. Then I can see that the nut, the rod and the collar, then you've got the mount, the collar, the rod and the bolt. All right, so that's tightened. 78 Newton meters, 78 Newton meters for this one as well. Again, this side does not have the collars, it's only the lower side that has them. So the bottom mount, top mount has no collars at all, okay? So you don't undo any other bolts to do this job. You simply are just pushing the swing arm up because the swing arm's gonna be up. Naturally, you can just imagine the bike's coming lower, so the swing arm is coming up, all right? So that's why we lifted the swing arm, so that we can get this bolt into this one, okay? So that, I'm satisfied, is altogether fine. Just remembering that if you have done this as well, you need to do the suspension while the bike's standing up, but make sure 23 Newton meters of torque, 1, 2, 3, same on the other side. Both forks need to be at the same height. Now I've got it set at 2 centimeters. I may need to adjust that because I've just lowered the rear of the bike, but I can see already that it is lower. Now, as I said at the beginning of the video, put your kickstand down so that when you go to lift the bike, you don't have any issues with the bike then toppling over this way. So I'm going to mount the camera on a stand over here in the corner. Now this is where the bean bags or your cushions, whatever you're using, are in the way. So what I'm doing is I'm holding both handles and I'm putting my right hand onto the brake. Again, ensuring that the foot stand is down on the side. So the reason why I'm sitting on the bike is because I just want to make sure that I'm supporting the left side, just in case there's anything wrong with the foot stand. I'm just going to try it. It's going up. That's fine. Good. It's staying up. Go and stand next to the bike now. The bike is definitely a lot lower. Pop the light on. So just remembering as well that I said that after you go and test ride the bike and make sure that nothing's loose, there's no noises, come back, tighten everything again, make sure everything is at the right setting. It doesn't hurt if you go to tighten it again with the torque wrench at the same settings after you've taken it for a ride. And then again, I think you should do it again in a few days time as well, just to be double sure. So this has been the install of the lowering rod to my bike that a lot of you have been interested to do. This is going to help a lot of people out. You can get lowering rods which are way lower than this. You can also put adjustable height suspension into the bike, but I won't be doing that much. And you can lower the front as well. If you've got any questions about this install, please feel free to comment down below. Thanks for watching this video. I know you guys have hanged in a long time for this, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.